The Master's Mysteries, Tales of Magical Mastery, Episode 1. On the outskirts of Kixia Mountain in Nandu Jingling, the autumn wind was cool, and the leaves had turned yellow. Except for the occasional chirping of insects, it was very desolate. In the middle of the night, a strange person appeared on the desolate mountain road. This person, at this time of the year, was still wearing tattered clothes, with disheveled hair and a yellow complexion. There was a dull smile on his face. What's even stranger is that this person walked in a very peculiar manner, as they say, going along the crooked path. Despite the awkward steps, he ventured into the deep forest of the mountains in the middle of the night. Little did this person know that as soon as he entered this mountain forest, he was being watched by a pair of eyes. Just as he reached a small path at the edge of the forest near a small cliff, a translucent slime suddenly shot out from the bushes. This slime, like a strong rope, instantly pulled him into the dense forest. Underneath this cliff was impenetrable shrubbery. Once dragged in, there would be no trace of a person left. Only the sound of a body maneuvering through the bushes could be heard. Normally, if a person disappeared in the depths of the mountains at midnight, no one would ever know. However, at this moment, behind a large tree on the cliff, a pair of eyes were continuously observing the entire incident. Ah, he's indeed here. Let's go. It's about time for us. This person was probably in his 20s and looked spirited. However, strangely enough, there was a big rat with a tuft of red fur perched on his arm, and he was speaking to the peculiar rat. The young man tracked his way and found an inconspicuous small cave hidden behind the chaotic rocks of the half-cliff. This cave entrance was at best half a person's height. As soon as he stood at the entrance, a foul cold wind blew towards him. It seemed that the inside had a vast space, and there was something moving inside. The red-furred rat led the way and went into the cave. The young man followed closely behind, crouching as he walked about 10 meters. Unexpectedly, the space inside gradually widened, and after walking for a while, the red-furred rat stopped and squeaked twice. It was then that the young man noticed that the red-furred rat had found another narrow opening ahead. The stench emanating from inside was even stronger, indicating that it should be the lair of the creature causing harm. This is the place. The young man controlled his breathing and cautiously looked inside. He saw a spacious area within the cave entrance. However, there was a spider web covering a space of nearly 10 meters in diameter above, and the person who was just dragged away was now entangled in the web. The beggar-like fellow was struggling on the spider web at this moment, but for some reason, he still had that dull smile on his face. Beneath the spider web, there were piles of white bones. Judging by the accumulated white bones on the ground, it was evident that this demonic spider had been lurking here for some time, having killed dozens of people at least. Just as the young man was about to examine it carefully, he suddenly felt a violent vibration from the spider web. He quickly looked deeper into the cave, only to see several red lights illuminating in the depths of a side cave. Then, a dark, gloomy head emerged. It turned out to be a giant spider as big as a yak. Seeing that its prey was already trapped, it crawled over along a thick spider silk. The man, for some unknown reason, despite still struggling, had that silly smile on his face and made no sound. This giant demon spider was incredibly fast. In almost an instant, it arrived beside the man. Its sharp mouthparts pierced towards him, but at that moment, white smoke suddenly emerged from the man's body. As the white smoke dissipated, the man who was alive and kicking just a moment ago suddenly turned into a straw man made of thatched grass. He wore a tattered coarse cloth robe and had a piece of paper talisman stuck to his chest. "Hey, how do you like it? Is the straw man delicious?" The giant spider stared blankly at the straw man in front of it. Suddenly, a provocative voice came from behind. It turned out that the straw man was an illusion created by the young man, specifically used to lure the spider out. At this moment, the giant demon spider realized it had been tricked and became extremely angry that someone had intruded into its territory. It turned around, and its several blood-red eyes locked onto the young man. One could see that apart from its gigantic size, there were facial protrusions resembling human faces on its back. You should have stayed here and cultivated the spiritual energy of the heavens and earth. Instead, you resorted to eating humans. You brought this upon yourself, unable to live. The young man knew that this spider was called the nine-yin demon spider. Originally, it was a spiritual creature in the world, but it had fallen into the demonic path. With each meal it consumed, a flesh lump resembling a human face would grow. This nine-yin demon spider was a venomous creature with a fierce poison. Once captured, a person would first be wrapped in sticky spider silk, and no matter how strong their body was, they couldn't break free. Afterward, the spider would inject a terrifying venom into the person's body. This venom would gradually dissolve their body into a pool of flesh juice. However, the poisoned person wouldn't die immediately. They would be conscious and witness themselves slowly turning into a puddle of pus. One can imagine the intense pain, extreme fear, and helpless despair experienced as their body was melted by the venom. Because the process of death is cruel and painful, those who are killed by the demon spider bear heavy resentment. The demon spider imprisons their souls within its body to aid in its cultivation. Over time, twisted faces and tumors form on its back. At this moment, there are already dozens of tumors on the back of the demon spider. If it devours more people, it will likely transform into a giant monster, becoming even more difficult to deal with. The demon spider, now bloodthirsty, glared at the young man with a fierce red light in its eyes. Suddenly, its body trembled violently, emitting a sharp and piercing hissing sound. As soon as the demon spider made its cry, a rustling sound echoed throughout the cave. It seemed like tens of thousands of pointed legs were crawling on the ground. Indeed, in no time, dozens of large spiders crawled out of the surrounding small caves. These spiders were much smaller in size compared to the demon spider, but they were several times larger than ordinary spiders. They had a grim human face pattern on their backs. In less than 10 seconds, there were over 100 of them gathered. The hundreds of human-faced spiders rushed towards the young man like a tide. He knew that the demon spider was female, while these human-faced spiders were all males. They intended to protect the mother spider in the web. These human-faced spiders were highly venomous, and being bitten by them would be extremely unpleasant. Ahu, it's your turn now. However, the young man didn't seem worried. He turned to the rat on his shoulder and gave it a command. Upon receiving the instruction, the rat raised its head and let out a sharp cry, as if issuing commands as well. Sure enough, as soon as the red-haired rat's cry ended, a large group of red-eyed, frenzied rats rushed in from the entrance of the cave. The number was easily over 100, and they were all of considerable size. As soon as this group of rats entered the cave, they pounced on the human-faced spiders, tearing and biting ferociously. For a while, the entire cave was filled with the sounds of spiders and rats in a fierce struggle, chaotic and entangled. It's worth mentioning that the agile rats were more adept at maneuvering. Soon, the rat army gnawed the human-faced spiders into pieces. Although the human-faced spiders were highly venomous, the red-eyed rats were not afraid at all. On the contrary, the taste of the spiders was extremely tempting to them. In the blink of an eye, the hundreds of human-faced spiders were devoured completely, and the battle between the spiders and rats came to an end. How about that? It's your turn now. The young man no longer paid attention to the rat army cleaning up the battlefield. His eyes were once again fixed on the nine-yin demon spider. The demon spider, seeing that all the human-faced spiders protecting it had been killed, intensified its angry red glow. Suddenly, it turned around on the spider web, pointing its rear end at the young man. It turned out that this was the demon spider's method of attack. It forcefully sprayed several strands of dark purple silk from its abdomen, swiftly aiming towards the young man. He couldn't afford to be careless and quickly dodge. He understood that although the silk resembled a sticky liquid before hardening, it contained deadly venom. If it touched his body, his flesh would rot away, not even leaving behind bone fragments. The young man's body was agile, constantly evading the silk's attacks. Nice speed. Despite facing the swift attacks of the venomous silk, he didn't show the slightest trace of fear on his face. Instead, he seemed somewhat excited, indicating that this young man not only possessed extraordinary courage, but also considerable skill. Upon closer inspection, each time the venomous silk landed on the ground, it would rise into a black-purple smoke, corroding the ground and leaving a deep pit. This demonstrated the tremendous toxicity of the demon spider, as even a slight mistake could lead to irreversible consequences. Seeing this, the young man became determined. After evading several rounds of the venomous silk's attacks, he reached for his waist and took out 5 copper coins. At this moment, another strand of silk attacked, but he quickly rolled on the ground to avoid it. Then, as soon as his body steadied, he swiftly raised his hand and shot out the 5 copper coins. However, the young man's target was not the demon spider itself. The copper coins embedded deeply into the rocky wall behind the demon spider, each one landing precisely in one of the 5 elemental positions. It was evident that the young man possessed exceptional strength. Experience my 5 elements formation. The positions where the 5 copper coins were embedded seemed to be of great significance. They represented the positions of the 5 elements. The demon spider suddenly sensed danger and stopped its attack. It kept glancing at the copper coins, emitting a dangerous aura. Just as the young man finished speaking, the 5 copper coins suddenly emitted 5 golden lights, forming a barrier around the demon spider. Sensing the danger, the demon spider turned around and tried to escape. However, despite its limbs struggling, it couldn't move its body. It seemed to be trapped within the formation. At this moment, the young man reached into his waist again and took out 2 talismans. He calmly made hand gestures while chanting words. The young man continuously chanted incantations and made constant hand gestures. The 2 talismans in his hands kept emanating radiant light, as if responding to the young man's utterance of the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, earth. Suddenly, the young man flicked the talismans, and flames instantly ignited on both of them. While continuing his incantations, the young man crouched down and placed the 2 talismans on the positions representing the sky and the earth. The 5 elements align, summoning the heavenly soldiers. 5 elements heavenly fire formation. Activate. With 2 hand seals, he shouted, "Activate." What he initiated was the 5 elements heavenly fire formation. The sound of formation activate resonated loudly in the cave, while from the positions of the 5 copper coins, 5 tongues of fire suddenly shot out, aiming towards the demon spider within the formation. The flames within this formation were all heavenly fire, possessing the power to incinerate everything. The sticky spider silk was instantly ignited, illuminating the dark underground space. The trap set by the demon spider turned into a massive fire net that trapped itself. The fire net tightly entangled the demon spider. No matter how it struggled, it couldn't break free. The agonizing screams of the demon spider echoed through the empty underground cave. Gradually, a burnt smell filled the air as its limbs were charred within the fire net. The heavenly fire in the formation was truly formidable. The large 9-yin demon spider couldn't withstand it. Soon, its entire body was engulfed in raging flames. At first, it struggled, but it was quickly reduced to a charred stump. Still can't use the heavenly fire formation. The spider web was burned through, and the demon spider fell to the ground. The young man didn't avoid the burning spider. Instead, he took a few steps towards it. Heaven, earth, humans, and ghosts, I am the master. The fire virtue, true Lord, is with me. The young man simultaneously chanted a fire protection incantation while swiftly reaching towards the spider engulfed in flames. Luckily, I didn't destroy this spider's pill. The young man's movements were precise and quick. In the blink of an eye, he retrieved a fiery red pill from the spider's body. It seemed that the pill had not been touched by the heavenly fire. Ahoo! It's time to leave. The young man placed the fiery red pill into his waist and turned back to greet someone in the cave. Surprisingly, it was a red-haired rat on top of the head of a face-eating spider. Let's clarify here. This young man's name is Liao Fengdi, a local from Jinling. He grew up learning skills from his master in motion. After his master inexplicably disappeared, he wandered through the wild forests and mountains. After Liao Fengdi killed the 9-yin demon spider and obtained the spider's pill, he leisurely walked downhill with Ahu, the red-haired rat. They enjoyed the cool mountain breeze, feeling quite content. Tomorrow, let's sell it to the medicine king old ghost. We'll buy some pastries to treat you and your kin. After tracking for 3 whole days, we finally obtained this top-grade spider pill. Liao Fenghi and Ahu were already thinking about enjoying a relaxed period after selling it. However, at that moment, Ahu suddenly squeaked twice. Liao Fenghi understood the rat language and knew that it had made a discovery. He turned his head and followed Ahu's indication, looking down the hillside. At first glance, something strange caught their eyes. Liao Fenghi moved extremely fast, like an arrow, and swiftly leaped into the bushes on the side of the road. Carefully, he looked down the mountain road. On the quiet mountain road below, there was a woman walking. In the feudal era, it was unusual for an ordinary woman to go out at night, especially in the sparsely populated deep mountains. Liao Fenghi had night vision and could see clearly. He noticed that the woman's walking posture was stiff, her face devoid of expression, and her eyes empty. He understood that her mind was being controlled. The woman mechanically walked forward, and the direction she was heading was toward the Kingliu Manor on the outskirts of Jinling. It seems we have another matter to attend to. This matter is very strange and peculiar, but since we stumbled upon it, we can't just ignore it. Liao Fenghi didn't approach to stop the woman but quietly followed behind her. The two of them, one in front and one behind, entered the small town of Kingliu Manor, which didn't have a large population. A greater battle against evil is about to unfold.